Hi, gang. Bob Boving here to bring you The Mystery Project and another new episode of Clean Sweep. Appearances and assumptions can lead down some frightening alleys, through potholes of confusion and mistakes, leading finally to tragedy. Bonnie Marsden gets caught in this maze. Can she find her way back? The play is called The Iver Johnson Special. Deborah Allen and Richard Donat star as Bonnie and Ben Marsden.
Yourself, Clyde. Here, taste the stick.
Either you're home a bit early, Bonnie, or I've been out here longer than I thought. This damn cooch grass is amazing. You get out from between the turnips every year, and every year it creeps back in. I thought Darcy and Robbie dug it all out when they were home for the weekend, but what happened? You look like you've seen a ghost.
I have, or the makings of one.
Huh?
Where's Melissa?
Inside, trying to get all her homework done before supper so she can watch the Muppet movie on TV for the 27th time.
Good.
What happened?
Well, the house I was cleaning this afternoon was Charlie Warner's, back on Kennebec Road. You know him?
Not much. He got some sort of millwright or mechanic job in the city.
That's right.
I bumped into him once or twice. Kind of eccentric, but that's no crime.
You don't know the half of it. Well, today, as usual, I started cleaning this place, basement first. Start at the bottom, work your way up. Well, he's got a little rec room down there. And then another closed-off room in the corner. Paneling over concrete walls or cinder block or something. Now, that corner room is always locked. A big, expensive bolt padlock that takes 2 keys. On one of those folded-over hasps you can't pry off.
Did you try?
No. But today, the lock was just hanging there, loose and open.
And you couldn't resist.
Well...
What the hell's going on? Charlie!
What the hell do you think you're doing?
I'm sorry, Charlie. I just saw that the lock was off and...
It was?
Yeah.
Holy jeez. I must be getting forgetful.
So since it wasn't locked this time, I thought you wanted me to go in there and clean that room this time.
Yeah, I guess you naturally would. I'm sorry, Bonnie, to scare you like that. It's just that the lock was off.
Yeah.
Damn. I'm going to have to make myself a checklist. Check myself in and check myself out. Middle-aged fool. Well, since you already caught a glimpse, I might as well show you. Come on in, Bonnie.
Well, okay.
It's all right, Nimrod. All secured. Bonnie, this is Nimrod.
Hello, Nimrod.
Every couple of weeks, I shut him in here for a couple of hours. Make sure no Houdini mice have found a hairline crack in the concrete. Amazing little buggers. That must have been when I forgot to lock the lock back on. And this is Iver. One of the Ivers.
Is it loaded?
Hell no. It wouldn't take me but 10 seconds, though. I jimmied up a bracket so you can slot all 5 shells in at once.
No, that's all right.
You won't see many old Iver Johnson revolvers around, but I've got 5 of them. A special kind of piece. Manufactured from 1884 to 1917. Feel the weight of it. Just like nothing, eh?
Yeah.
Small enough to fit in your pocket, but solid enough to take the combustion of a .32 cartridge. The Iver Johnson Safety Automatic, they called it. But you can see it's a revolver, not an automatic, and it's got no safeties on it. They called it an automatic because, see, when you break it open and hinge it down to load, these little push rods come up and automatically eject all the spent cartridges.
Oh.
Pretty nifty, huh?
Yeah, sure.
And they called the Iver Johnson a safety automatic, because with the recessed hammer and this little trick with the trigger, you can sit on it, or drop it, or roll it around in a barrel of marbles. Still won't go off. Elegant piece of engineering.
Do you shoot them, or just...
Oh, I've fired them all off at least once or twice. You can raise a hood and study on an engine all you like. You still don't really know it till you've driven it around the block a couple of times. There's a little valley a couple of miles back in the woods where no one can hear from the road. I even fired off a Kalashnikov there, the AK-47. You know why the AK-47 is still the most popular assault rifle in the world, even though the 47 is because it was invented way back in 1947?
No.
Only 6 moving parts. Can you beat that? Fully automatic weapon with only 6 moving parts.
Oh.
Work of goddamn genius. Did you see in the papers a couple of years ago, poor old Mikhail Kalashnikov himself was in a picture getting a medal from Yeltsin? Poor old duffer invented the solidest, most produced assault weapon in the world. Never got a patent. That'd be capitalist. But he's still standing there, grinning, getting his little tin medal for hero of the Soviet Union.
How can you... Where do you get all these?
Oh, here and there. For one thing, I do some work down the Boston States from time to time. Last thing customs agents want to do is dig through a cube van filled with toolboxes and drills and acetylene cylinders and... Say, look at this one. Before Colonel Colt got into handguns, he started with revolver rifles. But there was a little problem with combustion gases coming back from the cylinder and frying the fingers off whenever a poor soldier pulled the trigger.
I wondered what Charlie Warner did with his spare time. Nobody ever hardly sees him except when he's driving into the city to work or driving home. But I figured he must have had at least a couple of old antique guns. Because a couple of the guys were saying...
He's got an arsenal in there.
Oh, for God's sake, Bonnie. He's a millwright. They're just machines to him. Elsie Parker collects quilts. That doesn't mean she plans to smother little children with them.
There's no legal requirements to be a quilt collector. I'm damn sure Charlie Warner isn't a registered gun collector.
And damn smart he was not to be. Guess he could smell the new gun laws coming along before anybody else did. City people saying, what do these hicks need them guns for anyway? Well, you start with a .22 for rabbits and raccoons destroying your vegetable garden. Then you get a little .410 shotgun because maybe your wife hasn't had much shooting practice. And if you happen to be away when the chickens start screaming, there's nothing worse than a wounded skunk under your hen house. Then you get a 12 gauge to put ducks and geese in the freezer and a 30-30 for moose and deer. That's 4 guns you're paying license fees on just to register the basic machinery you need because you can't afford to buy all the food at the grocery store.
They changed that in the law. So one license fee covers all your guns.
Well, they'll write in some other way to make life miserable for anybody whose lifestyle wouldn't fit into downtown Ottawa.
Well, those guns might just be interesting machinery to Charlie Warner, but not necessarily to anybody else who got their hands on them.
Well, how's anybody else going to get their hands on them? Millwright like him? You said yourself that padlock isn't the kind you can pry off with a crowbar. And I'll bet you $10 there's bars on any windows in that room.
There aren't any windows.
There, you see. And he's got a couple of big dogs, doesn't he?
That's why I have to time cleaning his house for days when he isn't away working. He's got the yard and some of the woods out back page-wired, so when he leaves, he just lets the dogs run loose. A pair of mastiffs.
Mastiffs? A couple of years ago, I was helping old Cyril Whippersnipper's front ditch when a pickup truck went by with a mastiff in the back. I asked old Cyril. He knows most there is to know about dogs. I know what they bred lab retrievers for and beagles and Irish wolfhounds. But what are mastiffs bred for? And he said, killing people. So what with the dogs and the lock and the steel door and all, I don't think you have to worry about somebody getting their hands on Charlie Warner's gun collection.
He forgot to lock the door.
Well, he didn't forget to turn the alarm on, did he?
How many eggs you want?
Oh, just 3. Girls have been laying a bit oversized lately. You want this bacon sliced thick or thin?
Medium.
Okay.
Turning to the local news, there was a tragic accident in Membertou County last evening. 2 14-year-old boys were back in the woods shooting tin cans with an old revolver. Through a mishandling accident, one of the boys was shot.
What a sin.
14-year-old Harvey Bullard of Bullard's Road remains in intensive care. According to RCMP, the boys said they found the old revolver in the woods. The investigation continues. On a lighter note, the Membertou County High School swim team is holding a fundraising event.
Melissa?
I'm getting ready.
Just come into the kitchen for a minute, honey. Then you can keep on getting ready.
In a minute.
Funny, your pager didn't go off. There was an emergency just up on Bullard's Road.
Probably an emergency. Never got called in. Probably the kid's folks just threw him in the car and lit out for the hospital. Poor kid.
Why do I have to come into the kitchen?
Just for a minute, honey. Do you know a boy named Harvey Bullard?
No, he's in the big school across the road. But his sister is in my class. Why?
Well, I didn't want you to hear it first on the school bus. Harvey Bullard's had a bad accident. He's in the hospital.
What kind of accident?
Well, it seems Harvey Bullard and a friend of his found an old gun in the woods and were playing with it.
That was stupid.
Melissa, if somebody's had a bad accident, you don't say that was stupid. You wait for them to say it.
Why, if it was stupid?
You remember back a couple of years ago when we told you the ice was too thin to play on the pond, but you went down there and fell through?
It wasn't deep enough to drown.
Yeah, but it sure was cold, wasn't it? How would you have liked it if when I came running down to pull you out, I'd said, that was stupid? You already knew that. Now you'd better go hurry and finish getting ready, or you won't have time for breakfast before the school bus.
Okay.
That should ought to be enough bacon.
Bullard's Road runs parallel to Kennebec Road, doesn't it?
More or less. On the other side of the hill. A couple miles of woods between.
The same woods where Charlie Warner takes his machinery to drive it around the block?
He wouldn't just leave them lying around in the woods. They're his babies, from what you said.
He wouldn't mean to leave them lying around in the woods. He didn't mean to leave that door unlocked.
Bonnie, that revolver could have come from anywhere. There's more old guns lying around attics in Membertou County than you want to think about.
And how many are lying around the woods between Charlie Warner's place and Bullard's Road? And Harvey Bullard's little sister is in Melissa's class.
Well, all that you know about Charlie Warner is that he's a harmless, careful kind of guy who spends his lonesome hours studying up on a kind of machinery the government don't want him to have. You can't go around getting welcomed into people's houses to do a job of work for them and then snooping through their closets to find some reason to turn them into the police.
I've done that before, and you said you were glad I did.
And sure. When you know for sure somebody's doing something that's hurting somebody else. All you know for sure about this is that Charlie Warner collects old guns, and some kid who lives 2 or 3 miles from him had an accident with an old gun.
I'm ready for breakfast.
But breakfast ain't quite ready for you.
Almost. Sit down and I'll dish it out.
Don't worry about the school bus, Pumpkin. I got some carpentry work on the other side of the village, so I'll run you over on the way.
You're running over?
I just might.
Here you go.
And what have you got on today, Bonnie's cleaning service?
Just the senator's house. Sometimes it takes me all day, so I don't book anybody else.
So that's all you're going to do today?
Yeah.
Yes, I want to see your smiling face 45 years from now.
I'm afraid I have some sad news to report. Harvey Bullard, the young man we reported earlier was in intensive care after being badly wounded in a shooting accident, has passed away.
Oh, no.
Counseling will be available for students at Membertou County High School and Pisiquid Village Elementary.
Membertou County, RCMP.
Corporal Kowalchuk, please.
Just a minute, please.
Corporal Kowalchuk, Membertou County.
Corporal, it's Bonnie Marsden.
Oh, hello, Bonnie. What can I do for you today?
Well, I just heard on the radio that Harvey Bullard died. The boy shot in the accident.
Yes?
And I was wondering, they said on the radio the boys were shooting tin cans with an old revolver. Do you happen to know what kind of revolver it was? I mean, was it just an old revolver or an antique?
I'm not sure I know what you mean.
I mean, was there something kind of unusual about it? Special?
Why?
Well, let's just say it's something I'd like to know. Maybe I heard something, or maybe I'm just imagining things.
There's a lot of things you've wanted to know around Membertou County, Bonnie, and a lot of them have turned out to be very helpful to me. So, it's no big secret, just a detail that wouldn't get into the newspapers. The firearm in question was a .32 caliber handgun, manufactured around 1900 by the Iver Company.
I thought they were supposed to be safe and can't go off by accident.
And how would you happen to know that?
Oh, it's just something I heard somebody say once.
My information is that this particular model was known as a safety automatic, even though it's a revolver. But there's no such thing as a safe-loaded gun, Bonnie. Even trigger locks aren't entirely reliable.
You're certain that the gun was an Iver Johnson?
No question. I tagged it myself for the inquest.
Corporal, I've got something to tell you.
The radio receiving? 10-12. The sharpshooters are in position.
You sure they weren't seen?
My men are very good at their jobs, Corporal. And with this bend in the road, we could be mounting the D-Day invasion without the suspect knowing.
We almost are. Did your constable say whether the pair of mastiffs are shut in their pen or running loose?
In their pen.
Good. It's very reassuring to have your team along, Sergeant, but you're probably wasting your time. My information is that the suspect is just a collector, not some kind of survivalist.
Well, your information may be incorrect.
I guess there's one way to find out.
What's that?
I'll go knock on his door.
What do you think you're doing?
Wouldn't you get kind of nervous seeing a man in a Kevlar vest walking up your driveway? And you can take charge of my Sam Brown. Given the amount of weaponry Mr. Warner supposedly has in there, my sidearm isn't going to accomplish anything but make him uncomfortable.
I am the ranking officer here, Corporal.
I'm well aware of that, Sergeant. But your team was only called in as backup, and this is my jurisdiction. I've been detachment commander here for 3 years now. I know these people.
Nobody knows what a man with a house full of illegal firearms might do.
As I said, there's only one way to find out. Do you want this to turn into a shootout?
Of course not.
Well, an unarmed officer knocking on his front door is less likely to get Mr. Warner's dander up than somebody blaring at him through a megaphone to come out with his hands in the air.
10-4, Corporal.
10-12. I'll wave you in when the situation is secured.
I hope so.
Good puppies. Yeah, I can see you too.
Hello. Saw you coming up the drive. Somebody lost in the woods?
Charles Warner?
Yeah?
I have a warrant to search your house.
What? What for?
Please leave your arms down by your sides, Mr. Warner, and don't reach into your pockets.
Sharpshooters?
Uh-huh. I think you know what we're searching for, Mr. Warner. Illegal firearms.
But this is my home. You can't just... I never hurt anybody. I pay my taxes. I never even drive through orange lights. You can't just walk in here and...
Please, Mr. Warner. Try not to move your hands around.
A warrant won't stand up just on suspicion. If you don't have some sort of hard information, any search will get thrown out in court.
I know.
Somebody had to have told you. There's only one person. I thought I could trust her. Just showing off my hobby. What am I looking at, Corporal? 10 years?
If you continue to cooperate, the judge might...
Are you kidding me? The way people are screaming about guns these days? Any judge that doesn't throw the book at me will have the newspapers all over him. And I sure as hell ain't gonna cooperate as far as ratting out on anybody. Oh, hell. Is it all right if I get something out of my pocket?
Very slowly.
Keys to the padlock. Save you the trouble of trying to break down a steel door and probably crushing my cat.
Thank you.
Who's going to take care of my cat?
Bonnie?
I'm in the kitchen. Tea's on.
Leave it on. I stopped by the fire hall on the way home. Reed said he was driving down Kennebec Road this afternoon past Charlie Warner's place. Said the place was crawling with cops, SWAT teams, sniffer dogs, you name it. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you?
Ben, I checked to be sure before I said anything. The gun that killed that boy was an Iver Johnson. The same kind Charlie Warner was showing off to me.
Charlie Warner could get 5 to 10 years in penitentiary because you made a little phone call.
It wouldn't be that much.
That much or more. Automatic weapons smuggled across the border? When I had to spend 6 weeks in jail, it just about drove me crazy. 5 to 10 years? By the time Charlie Warner gets out, there won't be anything left of him.
There isn't anything left of Harvey Bullard, except a funeral. Next time it could have been Melissa out playing in the woods and stumbling across... There she is. Hello, honey. Would you like some milk and cookies?
No, thanks.
How about some milky tea with honey?
Okay.
You just sit down and I'll fix your cup.
Hello, Pumpkin.
Hello, Daddy.
How'd things go at school?
A lot of kids were crying. We had an assembly. They asked me if I wanted to talk to a Toronto counselor, but...
A Toronto counselor? Oh, a trauma counselor.
You told me the right way to say it was Toronto.
That's a different word, honey. That's for geography. But that doesn't matter just now. They asked you if you wanted to talk to a trauma counselor.
And I said if I wanted to talk to anybody, I talked to my friends. Mommy, what do you do if somebody whispers you something? You should maybe tell the principal or the police, but it's a secret?
I'm not sure what you mean, honey.
Well, at lunchtime, Harvey Bullard's sister was sitting way off in the corner of the school playground because nobody knew what to say to her. So I went up and we were talking and she whispered. It was a lie that Harvey Bullard and his friend found the gun in the woods. Harvey Bullard's grandfather gave it to them to go shooting.
What? Why would... Now, how could anybody be so crazy as giving a 14-year-old boy a loaded pistol to play with?
That's probably how old the grandfather was when his old man gave it to him for target shooting. He just didn't think of the fact that 14-year-old boys now aren't as grown up as they had to be back then. I know you asked your mother, Pumpkin, but I'll put in my 2 cents worth. Seems to me that Harvey Bullard's grandfather is probably punishing himself more than the law ever could. But that's just what I think. Now I'll go pour myself a drink and you two can sort out what you think.
Ben?
Your daughter's got a problem she wants you to sort out.
Ben? What are you doing?
What's it look like? I got enough clothes sewed together for a few days and enough tools on the truck for the job I'm on now.
Where are you going?
I don't know. How far? I'll take my keys so I can get into the house and the barn and get whatever else I need when I can see your car's not here. There's enough money in the bank to pay next month's mortgage. And I'll leave you money in an envelope when I get some.
I don't make the laws, Ben.
That's what those two sleazy undercover agents said when I got nailed 6 weeks in jail for having a pint of moonshine in my barn.
That's a hell of a thing to say to me.
Well, that's a hell of a thing you just did. You just flushed Charlie Warner's life down a toilet.
You don't know that. They might only confiscate his guns and give him a few months in jail.
Only? Why should they do anything to him? What did he ever do to you or anybody else?
But next time it might have been one of his guns.
Oh, don't give me might have been. The last thing you said to me this morning was you weren't going to do anything today but clean the senator's house.
I meant work.
You know it meant more than that.
That was before Harvey Bullard died, and I found out the gun wasn't Iver Johnson.
You couldn't have waited a couple of hours to talk to me about it.
What? I needed your permission?
No, but you used to need my opinion. Seems like you don't need anybody's opinion anymore except your own. And what the law tells you is right and wrong.
That isn't true.
I don't know anymore. You did what you did.
And this is how you're punishing me for
it. I ain't punishing anybody, just right now. Lying down in the same bed with you tonight just wouldn't feel very comfortable. I gotta go away and think about that for a while.
But what'll I tell Melissa?
Oh, you'll figure out something. You're good at telling people things.
You have just heard the Iver Johnson Special. Written by Elf Silver, the newest episode of Clean Sweep. In the cast, Deborah Allen was Bonnie Marsden, and Richard Donut was her husband, Ben. The others in the cast were Michael Pellerin as Corporal Kowalchuk, Ashley Swain as Melissa, Bill McFadden as Charlie Warner, and Kim Dunn as the Sergeant, with George Jordan as Bob Smiley. The music was composed by Scott McMillan and David McIsaac, and was performed by Gordon Stovey, Jamie Gatty, and Andre Lacroix, along with the two composers. The recording engineer was Pat Martin, sound effects Dermot Kenny. The associate producer was Peggy Hemsworth. Casting was by John Dunsworth and Alex Duncan. Our coordinating producer is Barry Morgan. Clean Sweep was produced and directed in CBC Radio's Halifax Production Center by Bill Howell, the executive producer of the Mystery Project. I'm Bob Bolting.